Shalom, everyone, and good evening from Galilee, from Israel. This is Amir Tsarfati, and these are special breaking news regarding the major event that took place in Lebanon and Syria less than 4 hours ago. I'll start with a prayer, and then we'll dive into a very unusual update, not only on what happened, but also what it is going to lead. And unlike Midi's updates, we will also answer your questions that you can write on YouTube, and my assistant will text it to me so I can see live, and I can also try to answer as many as I can. This is also the right time to push the share button so many people will be able to watch this super important, maybe one of the most important updates I've ever given here on live, here on our platform. So, Father, we thank you again. You are the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. You know everything, and you're in full control. And you also, you make sure that people pay for whatever they do to your nation. And we're watching right now things unfolding in unbelievable things that are going on. And we ask now that throughout this update, we will not only gain understanding of the times and the seasons, and also gain understanding of situation and facts, but also gain much hope and comfort. We thank you in the name of Yeshua. Amen. So, shalom, ladies and gentlemen. This is Amir Tsarfati, breaking news. And listen to me, folks. You want to share this right now. This is something that has never, ever, ever happened in the history of planet Earth. Something that is probably second to what happened during the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because at that time, such thing never happened before as well. Ladies and gentlemen, less than 4 hours ago, more than 3,000 pagers exploded one after the other, or if I may say simultaneously, all across Lebanon and in Syria, wherever Hezbollah operatives were. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm not going to say Israel did it, although Hezbollah just released a statement blaming Israel for that. But take a look at an incident in one of the local supermarkets just a few hours ago. There you go. A pager exploded right on the waist of a Hezbollah operative. Now, let me try and explain what just happened. Pagers. These are, it seems like they're primitive mean of communication. They only receive. They don't transmit. They receive signals simultaneously. When something happens and doctors have pagers, they all receive the same time and a request to, of course, show up at the hospital, stuff like that. Now, most countries don't use it anymore. Hezbollah lately purchased a new type of device that only, I guess, senior members of Hezbollah would carry on them. And, folks, somebody manage to fix those devices, plant something in them, and make sure to wait for the right moment to send a message that activated whatever was inside and expose, as you have to understand, someone walks into a supermarket, most people may not even know he's a Hezbollah operative, boom, that explodes, and if everybody hears that only Hezbollah members got hit, now all Hezbollah members have been exposed, whether they are working in hospitals and government offices, whether they were in some installations that belong to Hezbollah. everywhere across Lebanon and in some parts of Damascus as well. We know of not only people who had their pagers exploding, but people who got killed in a couple places in Damascus. We are now talking about over 3,000 injured people, of which 200 are critically injured. That means many of them will succumb to their wounds. And so far, the official number of fatalities is 9, but it's going to be more. Among them is the son of a member of parliament, who is a member of Hezbollah, and sons of a senior advisor of Hezbollah leader, also, and others. Among the injured people, listen to me, is the ambassador of Iran to Lebanon. The ambassador of Iran to Lebanon, Mujtaba Amini, he was injured as well. That's the guy, Mujtaba Amini. He also, the Iranians say he was lightly wounded, but hey, why would the Iranian ambassador carry a pager that belongs to Hezbollah? That tells you a lot about who he is and what he really does. Pagers exploded not only in houses and not only in supermarkets and not only in hospitals and not only in very sensitive locations above the ground. Apparently, over 100 pagers exploded on the operative of Hezbollah inside tunnels under the ground. And they mostly caused the most serious injuries because obviously the blast inside a tunnel is much more effective and causes greater injuries. Now, in many channels in the last 2.5 hours, the call for revenge was great, not only because this is an amazing thing that we watch. At no place in the history of planet Earth, something like that ever happened. Pagers that simultaneously explode in thousands of locations is unbelievable. But the thing is, many channels in Arabic are saying that we have to avenge this because all these people were injured next to their manhood. And obviously that is a humiliation to them, not only as Arabs, as terrorists belong to Hezbollah, but also as men. They cannot even be promised 72 virgins in paradise right now because, so my point is there's a lot of stuff that is running right now. Hezbollah did a very quick investigation and instantly accused Israel. Israel, by the way, never accepted responsibility. However, if you follow me on Telegram, and if you are not, then do me a favor and scan this QR code. I already reported early this morning that the Security Cabinet of Israel convened last night, and the decision was made to include another target or another purpose for the war, which is bringing all the people of northern Israel back to their homes. It's no longer about Hamas only. It's no longer about the south only. It's no longer about the Gaza Strip only. We added northern Israel to the war targets, which means that we're officially at war also with anyone that attacks us in the north and interferes our effort to bring our people back to their homes. This morning, based on the cabinet decision last night, the head of the Israeli Mossad sat for over 2.5 hours with Prime Minister Netanyahu. And then in the Ministry of Defense, in the underground base in the Kiryat in Tel Aviv, intense meetings, one after the other. And again, I reported all of these things on Telegram. And I even said dramatic deliberations and meetings are taking place right now in Tel Aviv, in the Ministry of Defense and in the Prime Minister's office in regards to Israeli major act in the north. There has to be something that we do in order to cripple Hezbollah and then eventually bring our people back to their homes. And as of 3:30 p.m., thousands of pagers, we call them beepers, exploded simultaneously. And right now, the health system that is anyway falling apart in a bankrupt Lebanon, the healthcare is unable to even deal with so many. You're talking about injured people that are required assistance. Look at what's going on. The chaos in the streets was amazing. It's still amazing, by the way. They're still finding people lying injured somewhere. In so many multiple locations as we speak. At first we spoke about 20, and then 100, and then few hundreds, and then nearly 1,000, and I follow the reports, and every time I updated it on Telegram. Look at a hospital. Take a look at the chaos in a hospital. Most of these people are injured in their waist. And again, that's not an easy thing. I don't think they'll deal with terrorism in the next few weeks or months. And what you have to understand that the numbers started climbing from few hundreds to 1,000 to 1,500 to 1,800 to 2,000, and now we hear over more than 3,000 people. And by the way, the numbers will continue. But among them, over 200 were critically wounded. And again, Hezbollah chose to release a statement that says that some children were killed. Now, all of that is for Hezbollah to prepare the ground for some sort of a retaliation that will be proportionate to what happened to them, which means now we can actually strike civilians in Israel, and we can do that also in a massive way. The Israeli Security Cabinet is convening soon. The Israeli top generals and the Minister of Defense, as well as the Prime Minister, are all convened right now under the ground in Tel Aviv, in the headquarters of the IDF. There you go. And right now, Israel has two options, and take a look at this. Two options. One is to strike before Hezbollah is getting their act together, and maybe use this particular chaos that is going on right now to strike them hard and cripple them so they do not mess with us, not in the next few years. The other option, which I hope we won't take, but it seems like it might be the one that we will, is waiting for their preparation for retaliation and then go on a preemptive strike once again. Now, let me explain also what happened as far as the humiliation. Think about it. These are brand new pagers. These are upgraded ones from the old ones they used to have. They thought that the old ones were hacked, and that's why they purchased the new ones. The new ones were only given to senior people, therefore just a regular lay terrorist did not get one. And apparently, in a brilliant move, we actually hit all the right people. We didn't have to hit civilians. We didn't have to drop bombs. We didn't have to fly F-16s. We didn't have to fly drones. We didn't have to shoot rockets from a naval ship somewhere. All we needed to do is to send a message to their beepers to activate, whether it's, some claim it's the lithium battery. I claim there is more than that inside. And whatever has been sent activated it, and that's it. Never seen in the history of warfare, in the history of planet Earth, and that is a revolutionary thing. Now, take a look at that. That's not the only thing. The Iranians are now panicking beyond whatever you can imagine, because now they think if we got to the communication systems that are very, very encrypted and very, very hard to penetrate of Hezbollah, how much more it makes sense that we did the same with them. All of the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, all of them are now throwing away whatever pagers and communication systems they have. That's not the only thing that is going on. The Fars news agency just reported that they believe that there are Mossad agents in the hospitals in Beirut looking who got injured, because obviously if you got injured, you're a Hezbollah senior operative. And so there's so much confusion, there's so much suspicion, there's so much chaos, there's so much embarrassment and anger. And what happened to Hezbollah today is something that never happened to any terror organization in the history of planet Earth. Again, a major cyber attack on Hezbollah activated either the lithium battery to the point of explosion or some device that was inside, and simultaneously across Lebanon, in supermarkets and hospitals, in homes, in sensitive locations, in parliament, in so many different places, every Hezbollah operative, not even the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon, Mujtaba Amini, got injured from all of this. Now, why would he carry one? You can guess, because Hezbollah is an arm of Iran. And ladies and gentlemen, all of them simultaneously exploded, all of them injured people in their waistline. In some cases, they hurt their major arteries. In some other places, they hurt other sensitive places in the body of a man. And again, the embarrassment is through the roof. Israel is right now calculating its steps. And now, let me tell you why we may not do what we need to do. And that is, of course, the American pressure. I have to make it clear. America, I'm not talking about our friends, the Americans, people. I'm talking about the administration. The U.S. administration, the Democrat administration, does not want a regional war right now. That's the last thing they need a month and a half before the elections. And therefore, they are pushing us to not go on a major preemptive strike on Lebanon right now. And they don't understand. Whatever you push ahead, or whatever you think you don't need to do today, you will pay for that tenfold later on in the future. And so we're in a very, very major situation where there's a military will to go and do something, but there is a diplomatic pressure. The envoy of President Biden to Lebanon and Israel, Amos Hochstein, is right now here in the region trying to push Israel not to do something. Now, I'm sorry to say, but there's a good chance that Netanyahu will not listen to the U.S. envoy this time. There's a very good chance, because we know, we don't have to guess. We know Hezbollah is going to retaliate, but maybe not just Hezbollah. The Iranian ambassador was injured. Now, if you remember what happened last time an Iranian was targeted, and that was the General Zahedi that was killed in Damascus in the Iranian embassy, yes? Remember, the Iranians launched the most massive airstrike in the history of planet Earth. Remember, it was April 13. We're talking about nearly 3,000 flying objects, whether it's cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, or drones. Most of them never even reached our area. Half of them fell along the way. But what I'm trying to say is that they did not avenge Haniyeh, who is a Palestinian Arab Sunni, but they always avenge a Shiite Persian. And so we are going to see a very interesting, next 24 to 48 hours. Again, if Israel is not going to a major preemptive strike soon, we may miss a golden opportunity to catch Hezbollah embarrassed, confused, without proper means of communication. There are some tough deliberations right now behind closed doors in Israel on what's going to happen, and I can tell you that that's not the only thing. The phone is ringing from the White House non-stop, trying to divert us from doing more than what already has been done. I promised you folks that I will also answer some questions And I encourage you not only to share right now, but also to go, if it's on YouTube or Facebook, please write in the chat questions. I already have some. Pete asked, is it safe to assume that no civilian was issued on one of these pagers? It's, these are Hezbollah people that receive those pagers. So they may not be wearing uniform, but they are terrorists not wearing uniform. So they might appear as civilians, but they're not. They are military operatives of Hezbollah. Was Israel responsible for this, and did America help? Well, Israel never took responsibility, but if you go to my Telegram channel, you will see an interesting report that I posted about in a U.S. Plane that was around that area. Arab sources report that yesterday an American Air Force aircraft of the type of EC-130H, it's a Hercules, but it's a special one. It's aircraft that is known to be used for electronic warfare. Now, was it something that part of the operation? I doubt it. But again, they're trying to find explanation to the phenomenal success of this operation that many of us call it Operation Below the Belt. That's what we call it. Tom is asking, do we need to see a regime change in Iran before Israel will feel safe, as we are told in Ezekiel 38? No. We need to see a defeated Iran that will wait for the right time to join a greater coalition. It doesn't need to be a regime change necessarily. Hopefully it will be. But it has to be a regime that will hate Israel as much as this one hates in order to join a coalition that will come up to destroy us. Dan is asking, what has been the U.S. response to the pager attack? As always, the pressure is on us. As always, the request is that we will not escalate situation. As always, we've been living in a major war since October 8th in the north. Hezbollah has been targeting dozens of Israeli settlements. Over 82,000 Israelis evacuated their homes. Many of them will never return. Many of them don't have anything to return to anyway. Businesses are destroyed. Lives were destroyed. And the pressure is on us, as always. Tammy asked, do you believe the Lebanon destruction is very near, and do you believe it will happen before or after the rapture? Tammy, let me say this. I don't know about a destruction in Lebanon, but I know one thing. The war that Ezekiel describes does not mention even Lebanon. It mentions countries that are in the second tier. Lebanon is not mentioned. Syria is not mentioned. So obviously, they won't be in a position to be a threat, and they won't join that war. So that could be because Israel cripples Hezbollah. Lebanon is a state is a country in a state of almost bankruptcy. It's a horrific situation that Iran and Hezbollah brought it upon them. And Israel has great sympathy to the Lebanese, but just so you know, most Israelis have absolutely nothing against the common Lebanese. Our enemy is Shiite Hezbollah and their the operators in Tehran. This is who we have problem with. But along the way, Iran took Lebanon hostage. And if a war will break out, which it will, I believe, then Lebanon as a country will also suffer. Wendy is asking, why does the American government think that they can tell you what to do? Look, when you sell weapons and when you send carriers and when you send F-22s and when you send nuclear submarines, then apparently you have a say. America is the only superpower in the world. America has a say when it comes to what they wish to happen because America also helps Israel. But there are points in countries' life where even your biggest ally can receive from you a no thank you, or I understand you, but I'm not going to listen to you in this one. And that might be one of those cases, I hope. Sherry's asking, where did the pagers come from? That's a good question, Sherry. Some suggest that these pagers came from Europe. Others suggest that they came from Tehran. One thing is for sure, somebody fixed them before they reached the right people in Lebanon and Syria. Now, it's interesting, but think about it. Every pager that exploded exposed the person as a Hezbollah operative. That's a genius thing. Think about it. And also another genius thing is just to injure them, not necessarily to kill them. If they're dead, then they're being buried and that's it. If they're injured, the hospitals will need to take care of them. That costs money. It requires bed, it requires medication, and they are there, but they are not there. And so we're talking about a much heavier burden on Hezbollah and the system in Lebanon rather than just dead people. So you don't kill them, you injure them enough for them to not be able to do anything, and they become a burden. And what you do, you're exhausting the system over there in order to not be able to withstand a war. And again, if you're asking me, the idea is for Lebanon to, or Lebanese also, to pressure Hezbollah to just stop their shenanigans, disarm, leave the southern part of Lebanon so peace will come back to that region. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think Hezbollah receives any orders from Lebanese people. I think Hezbollah receives their orders from Tehran. And I don't think Tehran cares much about the ordinary Lebanese people. They care about one thing, the destruction of Israel. And as long as they can sacrifice Lebanon, Hezbollah, Arabs, not Persians, the more the better. Pay attention. Iran did not yet even respond to the killing of Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas, in Tehran, inside the guest house of the IRGC, the most secure part of Tehran, 2 miles away from the presidential palace. They haven't even responded to that one. Yes, the Houthis responded in a very, very pathetic way. One missile, which they claim to be hypersonic, which by the way was not. But that's it, folks. Right now, we are talking about, okay, so now I see there are more pagers that are also exploding in Syria as well. There are reports on pagers that are exploding in Syria as well. Very interesting. Again, whoever is doing that is doing a great job and is targeting exactly the right people. Look, it's one thing to drop a bomb from the air and kill so many other people around. It's another thing to just target the person that is carrying a device. And instead of using, very expensive bombs, and instead of using very expensive airplanes and ships and drones, all you need to do is send a message in a major, unprecedented cyber attack and activate whatever explosive there was there and cause the injury, sometimes the death, of the terrorists themselves. Again, just by the explosion, we know exactly who was a terrorist and who wasn't. And again, the Iranians are extremely panicking right now because people are being exposed, and they are afraid that even their people are being exposed in Beirut as well. Hezbollah, again, is in a great embarrassment. They just issued a statement that they investigated and they came to the conclusion that it's Israel's operation. Okay? So I'm not going to say we take responsibility. I'm going to say Hezbollah already know that it's us, and for them, they already promised a revenge. It seems to me that this is the right time for Israel to make a major move, and I truly hope we will. And these next few hours will be extremely, extremely sensitive and tensed in the deliberation rooms and meeting rooms of the IDF, the Ministry of Defense, and the Prime Minister's office. And the Home Front Command will have to update the citizens of Israel how to prepare themselves for the future. As of now, there are no changes in the Home Front Command instructions. But should Israel expect something big, or should Israel go for a major operation that for sure will drag not only Hezbollah, but all of the Iranian militias towards a major response, then we will receive major things to change in the way we handle things. Rachel is asking, how do we know that the devices were made like that prior to the attack? Well, these devices were distributed a few months ago. And these devices were distributed and they worked fine until now. These devices were not fixed after because it's impossible to do it. You have to do it as it's being sent and distributed, not after. And so whoever did it either while they were manufactured or on their way to their target, to their address. And so it's phenomenal. I remember not long ago, a few years ago, Israel sabotaged the centrifuges of the Natanz enrichment facility in Iran. And basically, we caused the centrifuges to spin much faster than they were supposed to. Yet on the control panels, it didn't show anything unusual. And then, of course, lines of production were all completely disabled at once. Right now, we're not talking about a nuclear facility. We're talking about terrorists out there on the loose in places all across Lebanon and apparently also Syria, that one after the other reporting injuries because of the explosion of their pagers. And this is amazing. Again, Israel eliminated a few terrorists by planting some explosive in their cell phones or, stuff that is around them. Never before in the history of Israeli warfare, and I think of the entire world's warfare, simultaneously thousands of devices across a country or maybe two exploded. Brilliant move, a work of the most amazing intelligence body, which you know exactly what it was. And apparently that explains why the head of the Israeli Mossad had a very long and intense meeting with the Prime Minister this morning. And again, if you're not aware of the fact that I have a Telegram channel, scan this right now, get and follow me on Telegram. I reported throughout the day. Look, I knew something is going to happen. I even said that this, the situation right now is maybe going to change the Middle East completely. And it was obvious that even the political turmoil in Israel has been put aside because something bigger is now happening. I will tell you, though, that Israel today released an incredible information that we just thwarted an attempt to assassinate our former chief of staff of the IDF, Lieutenant General Aviv Kochavi. And it's interesting because on September, if I'm not mistaken, September 15, September 15, 2023, the same type of device exploded in Tel Aviv. Thankfully, nobody got killed. But immediately, the Israeli Shin Bet, the FBI of Israel, was on a manhunt, and we arrested in the middle of a highway in Route 443 in front of faces of astonished Israeli drivers. We arrested two people who admitted to be part of a Hezbollah cell. And what we found a few days ago that was supposed to explode and kill Israel's top general was actually not just the Claymore device, but also it had a camera and it was supposed to be operated by a cell phone and activated from far away, from Lebanon. And so in a very interesting way, on the very same day that we are exposing that we just thwarted a major attempt to assassinate Israeli Lieutenant General, who was the head of the military before this one, on the very same day, the head of the Mossad is coming in and out of Prime Minister Netanyahu's office. On the very same day, the very organization that perpetrated the assassination attempt is paying a price unlike any terror organization ever paid in the history of planet Earth. Now, it's not over. In fact, it's just the beginning. You need to understand, folks, we are talking about a preliminary steps in what appears to be a regional war that will break out in the very near future. What happened last night when Israel changed the targets of the war and updated them and added the north was actually adding Hezbollah to the targets of the war, which means declaring war on Hezbollah. And what happened today on the ground in Lebanon and Syria is a declaration of war as well. And of course, Hezbollah understands that. And now the question is this. It's a dual question. One, is Hezbollah prepared to pay the price for a war? Or are they willing to suck it up and move on? You know and I know that it's their pride that will not allow them to go with this thing unanswered. They already had received great amount of backlash for their very, very insignificant and very, very, I would say, weak and redundant retaliation to the assassination of their military leader in Beirut, Fuad Shukr, if you remember. But that's not the only thing. The Iranians understand that too much is happening. Israel is way too much on the winning side here, and penetrating into the holy of holies of these organizations. And the Iranians are not going to retaliate, but they are going to send their mad dog Hezbollah. Now, will Hassan Nasrallah do that? I don't know. By the way, I don't think Hassan Nasrallah is walking with a pager, so I don't think he got injured. But I think that some of his people have. I think that some very, very senior terrorists were injured or even killed. And again, also the ambassador of Iran to Lebanon, Mujtaba Amini, he was injured. So now we have an open account with the Iranians. And we've got some people that are children of senior members of Hezbollah. Again, these are top echelon of Hezbollah's leadership and their family members. And of course, it's obviously the only people who got injured or killed were people with the pager on them. So, very interesting thing. We're in the brinks of a major war. Now, is the majority of Israel still supporting Netanyahu? 100%. The majority is 60% maybe, but it's still the majority. And every poll is showing that he is leading in the question of who is the most suitable person to be prime minister right now. The leaders of the opposition, Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz, they are far below. Thank God Netanyahu is right now in power in these critical moments. One more question that we have. Has anyone been found in Israel that had one? No. And not to the best of my knowledge. I don't think Hezbollah operatives are walking in Israel with Hezbollah communication device. And so I believe that that's not the case. But again, think about it. The genius idea of hurting only the bad guys and exposing them along the way. It's phenomenal. And I think many people are going to look into that in the future. Leslie is asking, do we still watch for the destruction of Damascus? It has been bombed a lot, and I'm confused about this. Leslie, first of all, the Bible says in Isaiah chapter 17 that Damascus will turn into a ruinous heap. It will be destroyed and uninhabitable. Obviously, it never happened yet. I believe since Damascus has to be destroyed biblically and is not mentioned in Ezekiel war, I believe it will lead to the Ezekiel war. And so it is very likely that throughout all that is going on right now, maybe the attempt of the militias to strike on behalf of Hezbollah or to strike on behalf of Iran, or maybe the attempts of Iran to bring more and more and more people towards Syria to attack us will bring about the destruction of Damascus. I don't know. I know one thing. The Bible says Damascus will be destroyed, and I know that Ezekiel war does not even mention Syria or Lebanon. So do the math. It has to happen, and it will happen probably sooner than you imagine. Sherry, we have also another question. Should we be looking at something similar happening to Hamas and the Houthi operatives? No. First of all, Hamas is no longer in existence as a major organization. They are right now operating as guerrilla. We dismantled 95% of Hamas's capabilities, but they're still around, and we need to go and mow the lawn again in several places. But that's not the case with Hamas. The Houthis, these people are not that sophisticated, They love to deal with some sophisticated weapons of the enemy, but I'm not sure this is the case with them. I think that Israel should remind the Houthis that their launch of the rocket a couple days ago will be it will not stay unanswered, and we already paralyzed much of their capabilities in the first July attack on the port of Hodeidah. I believe that there are more targets that are now on the table. We don't necessarily need to send our F-35s. We can actually launch some ballistic missiles to hit the targets there just like they did. So this is definitely on the table. Regarding Hamas, remember, they executed 6 of our hostages, and Israel is looking also into punishing them by literally emptying northern Gaza completely and pushing everybody beyond the Netzarim corridor and flattening northern Gaza completely. And so that is on the table as well. Look, we're encouraging them. If you're a terrorist, you're dead. If you're not, you may want to leave, because I don't think there's a place for you to return to if you used to live in the city of Gaza or anywhere north of that. So again, folks, for those of you who just joined us, in a daring operation, a massive cyber attack caused thousands of pagers to explode and injure over 3,000 people that are all Hezbollah terrorists and operatives all across Lebanon and also in Syria. That comes hours after we are releasing an information that a major terror attack was foiled against an Israeli general. That comes after Israeli cabinet changed and updated the targets of the war to include bringing back the Israelis to their homes in the north. And that, of course, now if it's part of the targets of the war, it has to receive the proper response of Israel to what's going on there. This morning was a tense morning. If you follow me on Telegram, and I encourage you again to scan this QR code, join my Telegram channel throughout the day. If you follow me, you knew something is about to happen. I reported the dramatic discussions, far greater than just something small like political rivalry, is taking place right now, and stuff is going to happen soon that will change the Middle East in our region, and I was not surprised when all of the. I was surprised at the genius idea of what has happened, but I was not surprised that something happened. I was expecting. I even told my team here at Connect, something is going to happen today. Everybody is, talking about something, and it was inevitable. And sure enough, 3:30 p.m., thousands of pagers that were recently purchased by Hezbollah exploded and injured over 3,000 people, among which 200 were critically wounded. Many of them might succumb to their wounds and die. Hezbollah issued a statement blaming Israel for it, although Israel never took responsibility. This is definitely the most amazing escalation since the war began nearly a year ago. And ladies and gentlemen, Hezbollah is calculating their steps. They understand that they don't have that many great cards in their hand. And Israel must seize the moment. I really hope that somebody is listening to me right now in the top command over there. I know they don't, and I know that I'm no one for them, but I really hope that someone has the brains to take advantage of the chaos and the lack of communication that is right now their portion, and strike while they're still in shock. That's how you win a war. Take a look. I mean, thousands of explosions simultaneously across Beirut. And again, let me show you what it looked like in a little supermarket when somebody out of the blue was exposed as a Hezbollah operative because his beeper, boom, exploded. And he was on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, the Iranian ambassador to Beirut, to Lebanon, Mujtaba Amini, he was injured as well. Why would he carry a pager of Hezbollah? Because he's the operator of Hezbollah, of course. The member of parliament on behalf of Hezbollah just announced that his son was killed. Why would your son carry a pager of Hezbollah? That's the member of parliament on the right, and on the left, that's his son who got killed. My point is, ladies and gentlemen, that one after the other, Hezbollah terrorists and operatives were exposed, and it is a great embarrassment. No, Israel had to think twice before it did that, because once you do such a thing, you're basically telling the whole world that you controlled the communication system, and thus you were able to attack, and which means that explains how we knew who is where and when they're planning on doing what. But now, that's it. We don't have that advantage anymore. We've used that card. I can tell you from a close and intimate knowledge of the system and the people, we have many more cards like that under our sleeves, and we will not hesitate to use them. But again, today, a major attack. And it happened in the heart of Beirut. It happened in the north of Beirut. It happened in the southern part of Lebanon, in the towns of Nabatea and others. And again, a whole list of places is detailed on my Telegram channel. But it also happened in Damascus, Syria, where pages of Hezbollah exploded one after the other. And guys, as I said, this is an unusual update because I also answer questions. So if you write questions on YouTube or Facebook, remember, my team is scanning through it and they're sending me a text message with your question. So this, we up until a few hours ago, we were working on the regular Medes update with many different topics. But then that thing happened, and I've watched the rise in a number of injured people from 20 to 100 to 500 to 800 to 1,000 to 1,500, 1,800. And before we started, it was already 3,000 people. And it's not over, because you can only imagine how many people had this device exploded and they were alone. Nobody knows that they are injured. Some of them are in tunnels under the ground. Some of them are in apartments all alone. Look at the chaos in the corridors of the hospitals of Beirut. People mostly come with injuries in their waist, in their loins. And guys, I don't need to tell you what it means to a man. And that is one more reason why Arab channels were calling for a revenge, because their manhood has been attacked, not just their affiliation, not just their religious affiliation or their, terrorist organization affiliation. As men, they were also attacked. I think that quite a few of them will not be able to bring children to the world in the near future. Again, let me see if there are more questions. How is it even possible to make devices like this explode remotely? Well, this is the whole idea of a cyber attack, to send signals that activate something. Again, I'm not an expert. There are two options. An option of activating the lithium battery to the point of explosion. I don't think that's the case, because if that was the case, we would have seen fire first. That's normally what happened when a battery is going rogue. But the other option, that some sort of explosive material had been planted and the batteries heating up caused that explosive to, of course, be detonated. And that's it. So no matter what, a signal was sent that activated either the battery alone or the battery and some explosive inside. And the results are that we are seeing this unprecedented attack on the world's strongest terrorist organization. So for those of you who just joined me, major cyber attack on Hezbollah, both in Lebanon, all across the country, and in Syria. 3,000 people were injured. At least 9 were killed. I think many more, by the way. They just don't release those numbers because some of them are still under the ground in some tunnels. And out of the 3,200 are critically wounded, maybe because the explosion erupted their some major arteries, and they're fighting for their life. The Lebanese health system is drained now and overwhelmed. People were seen lying in the streets with some injuries. That's the hospital, as you can see. And again, for those of you who join us right now, take a look at what an explosion looked like in a little supermarket in a neighborhood of Beirut. Boom, that's it. The guy with the cap had his pager exploding. People ran away, and he was on the ground. No one else was injured. Take a look. All the innocent civilians were spared, but the terrorist was injured, and he's the only person on the ground. Boom, there you go. The guy wearing the cap on the ground. Unbelievable. Now, again, let me make it clear. If a bomb would have been dropped, a lot of casualties would have been reported. This is phenomenal. Not only that only operatives and terrorists, of course, were injured, but they have also been exposed. Look, this man doesn't look like a terrorist. He's wearing civilian clothes. He's wearing a cap. Apart from his, pager, I don't think he looked, probably half of the people didn't even know that he belongs to Hezbollah. And while he was trying to choose some pears or apples, his pager received a message and exploded. And that's the case in all the places where Hezbollah is controlling, in the airport, in the seaport, in hospitals, in parliament, in military bases that they have, and even in their homes and in their supermarkets. At once, we exposed most of the major Hezbollah operatives and managed to somehow disable them. Some of them are dead. Most of them are just injured. And when they're just injured, they're now a big burden on the health system that anyway is overwhelmed and on the verge of bankruptcy in Lebanon. Hezbollah caused so much damage to Lebanon, and now it's also overwhelming the Lebanese system. And all of that could have been avoided if Hezbollah would have kept its weapon and rockets to himself and not using them against Israel without any provocation on our end. Out of the blue, they wanted to help their Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza, and on October 8th, they began shooting, and ever since, almost every day, few times a day, they launch rockets and drones and anti-tank missiles and other things. And so, ladies and gentlemen, but again, for those of you who just joined us right now, two things happened prior to this major cyber attack, which leads many to obviously conclude that Israel is behind it. The first thing is that the Israeli cabinet met overnight and updated the targets of the war and added the return of the Israelis to their homes in the northern part of Israel as a target of the war. Thus, we added Hezbollah to officially the list of organizations we are fighting against this war. And when you do that, you have to act accordingly. Second, Israel uncovered a second terror plot to assassinate a major figure in the Israeli security establishment. Arab channels say that this is Lieutenant General Aviv Kochavi, the former chief of staff of the IDF, and the attempt was foiled. This is the second attempt to kill someone. On September 15th, 2.5 weeks before October 7th of 2023, there was a similar device that had exploded, but thankfully killed no one. And Israel immediately, hours later, captured the perpetrators on their way back to Jerusalem in a car. And I think that it is evident that this is the same exact hand that literally pulled the strings in both cases. So, folks, Hezbollah was trying to kill an Israeli general. Hezbollah was caught red-handed, and so I wouldn't be surprised if I was a Hezbollah operative why such a thing happened to them today. So, unprecedented major cyber attack never happened in the history of planet Earth's warfare. Simultaneously, at 3:30 p.m., thousands of pagers exploded as they were on the waist of Hezbollah operatives. This is one of them. And over 3,000 people were injured, of which 200 and more maybe are critically injured. Several people were killed. I believe that there are many more people that are injured or even died that we don't know of because they were alone in a remote area and nobody got there to even find them yet. So, folks, major blow to Hezbollah. And as I said in the very beginning of this update, Hezbollah already announced two things: that they found Israel to be blamed for it, responsible for it, and that they're going to revenge this properly. Israel, I don't think, can afford waiting, and Israel should use the situation right now. Right now, as we speak, there is a major meeting at the Ministry of Defense in Tel Aviv at the Kiryat base under the ground, where Israel is assessing the situation, and we will decide whether we need to inform our civilians to get ready for a major war and go into their bomb shelters, and of course, simultaneously begin a preemptive strike that will cripple Hezbollah's ability to even retaliate. So, folks, very amazing things are happening right now. It's time for Hezbollah to pay for whatever they do. I believe with all of my heart that the next few hours and days might even change the Middle East. And again, I said that before on my latest update. I'm not afraid. I'm not embarrassed or confused. I'm not depressed. We're going to win. We are going to win this war for a very simple reason. For Ezekiel's war to take place, Israel must be safe, secure, and prosperous. For Iran to have to choose to join Turkey and Russia in order to attack Israel, Iran has to be defeated, has to suffer a major blow. And Iran cannot anymore lean on its proxies. The proxies are being dismantled, destroyed one after the other. We started with Hamas. We're now going after Hezbollah. Soon we'll go after those that are in Iraq and Syria. And of course, we take care of business with the Houthis in Yemen as well. So folks, Iran will understand. We can't lean on our proxies to do the dirty job. We have to use bigger forces, bigger militaries, such as Russia's and Turkey, and also use other countries that we already arm and train in Libya and Sudan for a major attack. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, is the Gog from the land of Magog, the war of Ezekiel 38. And again, for that war, something has to happen to Syria and Lebanon because they're not even mentioned. And again, for that war, Israel has to be victorious, safe, secure, prosperous, in order for Iran and Russia and Turkey to make a major move. Also, may I add, for Iran, Turkey, and Russia to make that move, Europe and America have to be very, very weak, unable to come and help us, but only able to protest it. And so all of these things are telling me that great and major events are around the corner. What an amazing privilege to live in a time like this. Another question, guys, that I just received is this. It says, what do you think Lebanese civilians are thinking right now? Well, I think that if you've been following me on Telegram, I reported that already in the last 48 hours, Lebanese people are fleeing southern Lebanon. I think that the Lebanese are at the point of, we know something big is going to happen. We hope it's not, but it seems like it's inevitable. Lots of Lebanese already fled the country to either Europe, America, Canada, or Dubai. I know personally some of them. And I can tell you that they're not happy. They may not be our admirers because, of course, we're Israeli Jews after all, but I can tell you that they hate Hezbollah even more. And they're afraid. They're afraid. They're afraid of the Israeli jets and the sonic booms. They're afraid of war. They're, obviously innocent people can be afraid and should be afraid of stuff like that. Terrorists is something. Look at the injured people of Hezbollah. Look at them, one after the other. Some of the injuries are quite bad. And most of them, either if the people held the pager in their hand, they lost their fingers. If people had it on their waist, that part was of course, damaged as well. Someone asked me, was Nasrallah wearing one? As far as we know, he did not wear one. Why would a leader who's already in the last 20-something years living in a bunker, why would he risk himself by wearing something? He will let all of his guards wear one. He will let all of his advisors wear one. He doesn't need to. Apparently, but many people close to him got injured. Most of them, if I may add, because only the top leaders received those pagers. These are the new pagers. The old ones were only in the hands of the very small operatives. And now it appears that if you were someone big in Hezbollah, you were the target, actually. So this is it, folks. That's what's going on. I want you, if you can, pray hard for Israelis that are under the threat of a regional war imminently. Also, pray that the enemy will be confused This is, that's how God works. God not always kill the enemy. God sows confusion in the camps of the enemy, and then it is easier for us to do the job. Or sometimes the enemy kills each other. If you remember in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, we know that the enemy that came up against Israel, the king and the people went out to sing because there was no way they could fight and win, but they praised God, and as they praised God, and the king was Jehoshaphat at that time, and as they praised God, there was confusion in the camp of the enemy, and the enemy started killing each other, and that was a great victory. And for me, by the way, I always hope that it's the Lebanese that will finish with Hezbollah and eventually get rid of that and have better life. Because honestly, I will be very honest with you, I really want to visit Lebanon. I really love the Lebanese people. I really think that they don't deserve such terrible Iranian proxy to choke them. And honestly, I think it's the right time for the Lebanese to make a move and for some of their resistance movement to, give Hezbollah what Hezbollah deserves. But I will tell you folks that I'm not afraid. It's going to be tough, but everything is tough in the Middle East. This is not a garden of roses, but it's still the promised land. It's the chosen people, and it's God's sovereignty, and His promises are that we have future and hope. Remember that. We were not brought here for destruction. And so the enemy must read Jeremiah 29, and certainly Jeremiah 31, when he talks about the fact that only when the sun, the moon, and the stars cease to exist, only then Israel will no longer be a nation before God. So as long as you wake up in the morning and the sun is there, and at night the moon and the stars are there, Israel will always stand as a nation before God. If you want to be useful, aim your missiles towards the sun, the moon, and the stars. Maybe only then you get rid of us. God has a plan and a future and hope for Israel. All of us should remember that. Pray for Israel. Be on the right side. I want to remind you what Mordecai, the message that he sent to Queen Esther when he found out that Haman had a decree to kill all the Jews in the kingdom of Achashverosh, in the kingdom of Xerxes. And I want to tell you that he said to Esther in chapter 4, do not be silent. Don't. Because if you are silent, you won't escape the destruction yourself. But as of God, He will find someone else to help saving the Jewish people. In other words, God planned to save the Jewish people and to sustain them will be executed no matter what. The question is, are you going to be on the right side when the battle against Israel is happening? And so I encourage you to pray for Israel. I encourage you to pray that the enemy will be confused, and I encourage you to be vigilant when it comes to the situation. Follow me on Telegram. Please share this video, and I will keep you posted with all the breaking news 24/7. I don't sleep much. Don't worry. You'll get news hot from the oven. Until then, let me conclude with the Aaronic blessing, and then we'll say goodbye and meet again on Telegram for the developing stories. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up His countenance towards you and give you peace. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen and amen and amen. Thank you. God bless you. Pray for us. Get Telegram. Share this video. I love you, and shalom from Galilee. Bye-bye.